Okay, so
Yeah, I need your paper. I got here to print mine out.
I'm going to show you. So I had the idea for this episode based off an Instagram video.
Okay.
That's where I get most of my inspiration.
Yeah.
So I want to show you this video real quick. And then for the actual episode, I'll just splice it in somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get into any kind of political debate with anyone, first question, do you believe people can change? And if someone goes, no, they are what they are, why are we even talking?
Well, that's
forget that.
that's such a silly perspective that so many people share.
But it's that thing of like going,
Yeah.
if you have the same political views that you had when you were 21 and
Right.
you're now 45, you haven't been thinking much.
Right.
You've just been rearranging your prejudices.
Yeah, and
That's not thinking.
You're biased.
Like, what was the last thing you changed your mind about? Is such an interesting question.
Yeah.
What was the last thing, like big thing that you went, I used to think that, and now I think this?
That is such a great question. Oh my goodness. This is so true. What's the last thing you changed your mind about? I'm going to ask somebody that question because think of it. We all want to be right and we dig our heels in and we try to win the arguments all of the time. But I have changed my mind on several things, important things, political things, spiritual things, relational things. And when you recognize that you're wrong, you can either get angry about it and fight to regain ground, or you can see this as a gift and an opportunity to change your mind and change your habits and change your life.
So I saw that and then I was like, man, what a great podcast topic. Because I started thinking, like, what are all the things that I've changed my mind on?
Yeah.
What are things that I've been thinking about changing my mind? So he said, are you thinking about just rearranging your prejudices? And then it made me think of this other quote, assume you're wrong and just always aspire to be less wrong. That always gets attributed to Elon Musk. I don't know if he actually said it. But if you always go into a thing assuming that you're at least you're not 100% right, and you're just trying to be less wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're open to change then.
And I think it's easier to deal with disappointments. Like, you're lowering the standard a little bit.
Yeah.
That rather than going into a situation assuming everything's going to go. I've had this so many times with training, teaching a certain class, a new class. You might go into a situation, if you go in like, okay, it's the first day, we're just figuring things out, then that's fine. Whereas if I go in like, I've got all the details down, this is going to be great, and then something unexpected happens, I find myself more frustrated because I realize if I reflect, I'm going in thinking everything's going to go right, thinking I'm going to be perfect, and that's just kind of setting myself up for failure. But I think a lot of my actual failures have made me be a better person in work and in life. Like the big fails, you kind of can't stop thinking about. Yeah.
If you do something well and you're successful, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't learn as much as when you just get kicked in the teeth, and that can be such a big motivator.
Yeah.
Or you dig your heels in and you go, I wasn't wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't lose. And it's like, or you could learn. Yeah. So I watched that Instagram clip and I started writing things down and typing things. And I was like, okay, what have I changed my mind about? What do I probably need to change my mind about? And I had a really long list. I narrowed it down to about 7. We don't even have to go through all of them.
7 too.
You have samples?
Yeah. Perfect.
Maybe it's just because that's what fits on a page.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
did on notes, so then
I had more notes too, and I started like finding other video clips that supported the thought process. So I got way too into it. So what I did was anything highlighted in yellow, those are how I changed my mind.
Yeah.
So the whole premise for this is we're going to exchange lists. I'm going to read yours and you're going to read mine. We might not get all the way through them, and I didn't put them in any particular order either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna ask you first. So you're in the hot seat.
Yes.
So Rachel's number 1 on here, not necessarily your number 1, but the one you have listed first is you've changed your mind about this. So training to look a certain way. What does that mean?
Yes. So what that means is, gosh, I feel like especially for women, it's very common to work out for the purpose of looking a certain way. Like, I think weight loss, even people are thinking of the number on a scale, but it's correlated to looking a certain way. And I recognize that that is kind of human nature, but I would say personally, the longer I've been a trainer, the less I care about that. And the harder it is working with people where all they care about is looks. Because my style is more like functional, I would say, and like my goal is health. And so sometimes it's really hard, admittedly, when people are like, I really want to work on this muscle group and not that, because I'm like, your body needs, healthy joints, all of your joints, not just these joints. And so like, oh gosh, I'm going to be mean, but I can't stand like, and more and more, I cannot stand when people are like just completely glute focused workouts or something, where it's like a whole day dedicated to that. Or like really workouts that are, I would say generally moved more and more away from like bodybuilding style, because I would say I don't think it's really the healthiest. And I'm like, my focus is health. And so and then I would say personally, the more you just like I love lifting. I love lifting heavy things, but the more I feel accomplished about training for a certain PR, like, okay, I really want to bench 135 because it's one plate. And I feel like for a woman, that's a good goal. I'm at 130.
Yeah.
I'm really working on strengthening my chest for that, not to make it look a certain way.
Yeah.
I really want, like, there was a point when I really wanted 10 pull-ups. So I did a lot of training to get 10 pull-ups in a row. Now I'm working on a muscle up. And I feel like that's more achievable, because sometimes too, like, certain aesthetics people are never going to get with their genetics, just frankly. And a big part of it is nutrition, which is a later point of mine, and that's important, and we can get into that later. But I think just generally training to look a certain way can be a bit of a misnomer sometimes, and not always the healthiest. And I think the more you train to feel good, to be strong, to be healthy, the more like being active and in shape and attractive just kind of comes, but also being confident in how you look, I think, comes because you're confident in like what you can do.
How do you then deal with like, because I feel like vanity can be a problem for a lot of people. So you're thinking more about functional stuff, but you obviously still care about how you look. So how do you reconcile the two, as far as you're going out and training and you do care about the way you look, but vanity is not the driving force?
Yeah.
That was a question that got brought up actually in the renewal project for people like, I want to change my body, but I almost feel like I'm focusing too much on vanity, so my motivations aren't right.
Yeah.
And this isn't maybe even a good thing for me to do because of that.
Yeah. I think that personally, I would say personally, but also with a lot of the like young women I train at the college students, it's an impressionable age when you're thinking a lot about how you look and like compared to other people. I think that it's not uncommon for me to have people come in more thinking about how they look. And as we train, I don't come in and say you can't think about that, but as they train, they learn to prioritize some of those other things, I think. So like as they start lifting heavy, they realize it feels good to lift heavy. So it might be a journey. I also think that like it is more, again, how you look, I think, can come with it if you do a good combination of like overall movement, nutrition, strength training. If you do those things, you will improve your body composition. And so you will probably look better. And like if you want to be leaner, you can focus on the dietary part a little bit more. If you really want to be bulkier, like you can tweak those things. You can, like bodybuilders can demonstrate that you can lift a certain way and eat a certain way to look a certain way in terms of like how much muscle you have, how much fat you have. There's a degree that I think you can do. But I don't personally like that as a motivator because I think that it's a lot longer of a process. It can prioritize vanity or be discouraging if people aren't seeing the change as fast as they want. As a trainer who's primarily a trainer in the gym, the nutrition component being such a big component can be difficult for me working with individuals where if they really want to look different, nutrition is a big part of that. Like how much calories they're burning versus how much calories they're consuming. And I don't mean just burning in the gym, but like okay, you need to have strength training if you want to look toned, if you want to have muscle, if you want your body to have the definition that you want it. But then it needs to be visible. So you have to have a low enough amount of fat. And how do you lose weight is generally speaking, consuming less calories than you are using. And so strength training for that, overall movement in your day, like, gosh, this is getting into all my points, but steps per day are underrated. I'll just put that point there, that how much movement in your day. And then like, there can be so many factors too of like stress and sleep, but I think at the simplest, if someone's not looking at their nutrition at all, then just training you can't spot treat certain, like someone could strengthen their core, but they're not going to have visible abs unless they don't have the fat in front of the abs. So like, I think only training in the gym is like, I never thought that you could do that, but I would just say I'm more and more like, the gym is only going to do so much. It's also nutrition, but then also in terms of how do you have the motivator is, I think it's why I do really like strength training, but really any kind of exercise where you have specific goals. So like, I really like trying to increase the weight on a certain movement or trying to do the next advanced movement. So, okay, pull-ups are easy for me now, trying to do a muscle up. I'm going to build visible muscle if I'm practicing every day. It's just going to happen because I'm strength training daily. But if I have something that I really want to do, the body composition is going to come, rather than if I'm focused on the body composition completely, a day you feel bad about yourself, it can be more of a complicated motivator, I think. So
focus on the goal accomplishment and just let the body change how it changes.
Yeah, I think so. Focus on that. Focus on, fueling your body for the workout, getting good workouts in, and Does that make sense?
It does,
I don't know if that.
Yeah.
But it is complicated, but I don't think it comes overnight. Like, I think my mind has changed more and more that way over the years. And I've seen people I train tend to come in more thinking, I want to look a certain way. And as they start feeling a certain way, they might still want to look a certain way, but they realize also that just the feeling better, the being able to do things is kind of addictive in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Get that.
All right. If you don't keep a neutral spine, you won't necessarily get injured. Rounding your back isn't necessarily bad for your spine. So I'm assuming that this is, you wrote like your mind has changed now to
that's
this.
how I think now.
Okay. So mine was the reverse.
Yeah. So the people feel like, oh, I round my back when I lift or I pick something up. That's inherently bad.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just not a lot of evidence to support that.
Mm-hmm.
There are some thought leaders out there who have done some good research that would argue with that, but the researching these things is limited because we can't intentionally injure living humans.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't take 1,000 people and try and rupture a disc or break something. So you're limited. Limited research. We're limited to cadavers and pig spines and things like that. And so we can tell mechanisms. And yes, flexion and compression creates translation. You can get injured that way. It's probably, if you're looking for a way to injure yourself, that is a good way to do it. Just because mechanical failure will happen at that more often than not, or more often than other positions. But the human body also adapts to stress where cadavers don't.
Yeah.
You know, so
They're not alive.
yeah. And so, you know, if I bend over to pick up a pen and round my back, no one's going to freak out. Why? Because it's a low load and it's 1 rep. So the stress isn't very high.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at it that way, we go, okay, so it's stress dependent. Okay, so you could have someone round their back and pick up something light and they're not going to die. They're not going to get injured. So then what's the limit for them? Well, don't hit the limit. You know what I mean? And if you want to train people to be functional, then you have to respect the fact that they can't, picking up a barbell isn't always going to be the option for them. They're going to have to pick up a kid out of a crib and they're going to have to round your back. You're going to, you know what I mean? Like there's so many scenarios where you have to round your back to pick something up. So if you're only training as like a perfect lift in a gym, you're not preparing for an imperfect world per se. You're not really, and different sports are going to put you in weird positions. And if you're not ready for a position, that's when the injury happens. So it's like, yeah, flexing your back and rounding your back under load might cause an injury, but maybe it's because you didn't do it enough leading up to the activity. You weren't prepared for it. So your body couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So, and there's even evidence to show that you actually get more muscle activation, more force with a rounded back. So, and there's, I think, good evidence to show that you can't bend at the hips without rounding your back. Even if it looks like you have a flat back, there's still a certain amount of flexion, just the way we're built. So to say that you can't round your back is an impossible task, it seems like. So it's almost not usable then. And life requires it. So if it's not possible and it's a requirement, I don't think we should demonize it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have someone go in and do a 1 rep max rounded back deadlift.
That was my question.
That
when you're coaching,
that'd be crazy.
Where do you draw the line coaching? Like, would you try to encourage someone to have more neutral?
I don't mind neutral spine because that gives you some leeway and everyone's going to look a little different. I had a student last semester who was very clearly had kyphosis. So he's structured different. If you saw him and you didn't know that, he always looks like he's rounding his back because his back is structured that way. So it's like, what am I going to do with that? And there's a lot of people who just can't hit those positions. So, you know, if we're working on a barbell lift, well, the barbell lift, optimally, you're going to have a neutral spine. So I'm going to coach it that way. But if we're trying to transition to someone's trying to be a wrestler, well, you're going to have to round. You're going to be forced in that position. So I'm going to change the lift in certain times, in certain instances, or I'm going to change the workout. No one bats an eye at like bending over and touching your toes and rounding your back for a hamstring stretch.
Yeah.
So why can't we load that a little bit? That's a Jefferson curl. There's just a lot of different ways. So I don't think it's like, I don't want to create a false dichotomy where it's either good or bad. It just is.
Yeah.
It's just situationally dependent what the person can tolerate.
Yeah.
And what their goals are. You know, and if people have goals of just like, I just don't want to have low back pain, we're going to have to incorporate some rounded back deadlifts at some point, because that's what's going to cause pain when you pick up a basket of wet laundry, or you have to reach under something and grab something, you have to pick up a kid. So we've got to prepare you for that in training if that's a goal.
Yeah.
But if someone's like, I want to be a championship power lifter, well, the sport is more optimal with a neutral spine. So I'm not going to train you that way. But if you're like, oh, I'm a mechanic, I have to pick up engine blocks, we should probably work on some med ball deadlifts or like some odd object type things with a rounded spine.
Yeah.
Atlas stones, if we have access to them, things like that. So it's like, you just have to look at the goals, the injury history, their current capability, and then make a smart decision for what that person at that time can tolerate and what they should or shouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? So there's nuance to it. So I think this idea that which I have completely changed my mind on 180 degrees, is that you shouldn't lift with a rounded back. And it's like, I think most people should probably spend more time doing it, because that, for me, who treats people for low back pain a lot, that's usually the position that gets people stuck. Right? So if you feel like you're going to be in that position and it might cause pain, we should practice that. Yeah. And get you comfortable with it, get you strong in that position. I just don't think we look at, we like, avoidance is just a bad plan. Yeah. And so if we're going to avoid lifting with a rounded back, I can predict how someone's going to have a back injury. The first time you have to do something in life with a loaded flex spine, you're going to have back pain or a back injury.
Yeah.
So let's just prepare for that a little
Yeah.
bit, but within reason, obviously, as well. So, you know, I just think there's nuance to it, and like the idea that you shouldn't lift with a rounded back. There's no nuance to that.
Yeah.
It's just.
Well, I think I really liked what you said about goals in particular, and this is a broader thing. I don't remember if it's specifically written on my list, but in terms of changing my mind, the longer I go, you know, I'm teaching, working with students, teaching classes, I have to end up saying it's really goal specific. Like a certain athlete is going to have specific goals, but the way someone trains for track is going to be even different than the way someone trains for football, or the way someone trains for basketball, and versus the way an individual trains just for overall wellness. And there's even a whole realm of like getting at your goals with your preferences. And I think I have a hard time. What I see a lot is in my job is just combating blanket unnuanced statements that people see online. There's a lot of really, and this kind of goes back to the bodybuilding specific or the powerlifting specific. There's a lot of great powerlifting coaches out there. There's a lot of great bodybuilding coaches out there. There's a lot of great athletic trainers out there that have very specific advice. And they sometimes give it, or how I've observed this with social media, is they give it in a way as this is the best thing to do. You want to be doing this. So a powerlifting coach, you might watch a video and he's like, you want this form, this form, this fine. That's great for completing that lift, but that lift might not be the best for my client for their goals. And I think that I'm really big on movement patterns. Like I always want someone to be squatting, to be hinging, to be pushing, to be pulling, to be moving all areas of their body. But what lifts they use to do that is going to largely depend on their goals and the form. Because also, and that goes into the like training for how you look of more exercises are like, this is going to put the most stretch on your rear delts. Great. If someone's in a bodybuilding competition, it really needs that. But are we going to spend a lot of time on that for this 70-year-old lady who I work with once a week? No, we're going to do push-ups again and again, and we're going to do squats and make sure that she can do that around her sciatica. Or we're going to work on balance because that's, you know, we're not going to get. So the workout plans can really change, and even the advice. And it's just, there's a lot of good coaches out there for their goals, but it's not always clear when you're scrolling social media that they're speaking to a specific population. And my client might not be that specific population.
And I think I've actually spoken to people like that, or like they don't make nuanced social media content, but when you talk to them, they're like, they understand, you know what I mean? That's not how they are. That's not actually how they coach. It's just there's certain things that perform well on social media.
Social media,
They're trying to run a business, and so their coaching is way more nuanced, but you wouldn't know it from what you see on social media. And I think people who are consuming social media just need to understand that sometimes, like when I make a video, I'm thinking what's going to get more views. I want to be and I can't be nuanced in 90 seconds anyway. So I think there's what's being portrayed on social media isn't always a representative of the whole person making the video.
Yes, that's a good point.
And a lot of the stuff that they may even produce nuanced content, but because the algorithm doesn't feed you that, it's only going to show you the stuff that it thinks you want. So they may actually have a lot of great content that shows nuance. You just don't get it because that's not what the algorithm is deciding that you need to consume. And I think that's where people get tripped up a lot too. But I had a conversation yesterday actually with a woman. It was a history of low back pain and sciatica. She wasn't in any pain at the time, and I was talking to her about everything. She's doing a lot of great things, but she doesn't lift weights at all. Like no, there's just some body weight stuff, but like no external weightlifting. And I was like, well, if you're looking for my opinion, if we're gonna fill a gap, it's strength training. You're not getting enough of it. It doesn't have to be a lot. And she was like, one, resistant to it because she doesn't want to get injured. So it's already like she's probably hearing like, don't lift it with a rounded back. Like, so I think a lot of these things, why I've changed my mind on them, not necessarily because they're bad, but it's like, it's not received well. It sends the wrong message. It makes people cautious about movement. And I don't want them to be cautious about movement. I want them to move more.
Yeah.
And for her, it was like, you know, it was like, well, if you don't lift weights, what happens if you pick up something, a weighted object in life? She's like, you know, and I was like, well, okay, if I am going to get my crystal ball out and predict your next back pain, you're going to pick up something that's not really that heavy, but it's relatively heavy for you. Let's say, I was like, do you have a water softener? Yeah. Water softener bags are 35 pounds, salt bags. So when someone can't help you with that salt bag and you have to put it in, the process of getting it to the softener, opening it up and getting that salt in, that could be a mechanism of pain and injury for you, unless we start picking up things that weigh 35 pounds or more. It's not going to prevent it necessarily, but it, like, we got a better shot at it because your body's going to be used to that. So, and part of that might be lifting with a flexed spine or rotating while you're under load or doing some things that you're not supposed to do because like you wouldn't do it with a barbell. And it's like, okay, a bag of water softener salt is not a barbell. You know what I mean? So like those rules don't necessarily apply.
Yeah.
And again, nuance there. And I think pretty much any coach, even the most provocative people on social media, if they're sitting here right now, they're like, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
But I think most people understand that, but it just doesn't get conveyed or portrayed like that.
Yeah.
And because of that, I have tried to change my language, especially with coaching. So I will say neutral spine, but I usually just cue like, keep a proud chest, push your butt back. You know what I mean? Bend it, hinge at the hips, things like that. Like, so your shoulder blades in your back pocket. So it's like things like, don't worry about like things that I know will change the position if I want to see something change. And then more manual cues. It's more, I guess, more with guys, but like just going up and putting my hand, hey, can I touch you? I'm going to put you in this position.
Yeah.
Feel this. Replicate that kind of thing. And when I'm working with women, sometimes I'll just have another woman do it. Like, who's good at it? Be like, you know what it's supposed to look like? Put your hand on her hip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like, so there are ways, I think, in your coaching in person that you can get those things done quite effectively. But again, if you're just consuming stuff on social media, I think it's more harmful because it's something like for low back pain, it's like 80% of the world will have it. That's the estimate. So low back pain is the norm. If you don't have low back pain in your life, that's weird. So people think that it's weird that they have low back pain, and it's like, no, it's quite common. So if low back pain is definitely in your future, would you rather be in shape and healthy or out of shape? Because the low back pain is the low back pain. And it's much easier to recover from low back pain if you're already fit and active. So if people are like, well, I haven't deadlifted in years because I'm worried about rotting my back because I'm worried about injury, it's like, okay, so we've increased your risk for heart disease and cancer and diabetes and Alzheimer's and dementia because you're worried about some back pain. It's not a good trade-off. You could have more bone density. You could have been more capable. We could have reduced your risk for back pain. And we could have loaded your spine in a rounded position this whole time and gotten you there, but it got in your head that this is bad. And it's like, it's not good or bad. It just is a thing. And we can work through that. And if we want to make it more optimal and get you more neutral, we have to practice. And if you want to be good at something, you have to suck at it for a long time. So you might end up having to deadlift with a rounded spine for a year at a moderate to light load in order to get enough reps in to gain the technique to get to the position that we want you in. It just doesn't happen overnight for a lot of people. So you almost, if you have bad technique and you're rounding your spine, we actually have to lean into that and risk that for a while so that we can train you to have the motor patterns that we want to be able to load how we want you to load. And that takes practice and it takes reps. And those reps are going to look ugly.
Well, I think that's what people don't realize. I was having an interesting conversation about this with a client recently, that you need enough motivation to keep going. And I do think part of that motivation is feeling good about yourself. And so sometimes that means like your form's not perfect, but I think as a coach, it's really important to understand good enough and to not to find that balance between helping and not wearing someone down. And then, there are form cues that I have people in my adult classes that have been working with me for a year. And a year in, I can say something that I tried to say, but they weren't exactly receptive to, or maybe I said it in a different way. I became a better coach. I communicate differently, or they're more receptive to it. And they know their body more because they've been doing a lot of practice of their form. And they're ready to add that cue and add that technique tweak. And maybe in the very beginning, it's like, that's too many things to think about. But I think people have to have a degree of feeling like they're doing it decently well to keep going. I mean, I think things that I changed my mind about, the amount of tweaks I've made with everything I do in the gym over the years and hopefully improved. And I think back and go, ugh, why did I write that workout plan? Or why did I do that lift in that way if I filmed it or something? And you just, because that was as good as I was then. But I felt confident enough to keep going. And that was important at the time,
Well, I think that leads into this one arrow in your sheet. This is interesting. So something you changed your mind about: being loving and helpful to a client is being more frank with them.
Okay. So I guess, I'm sorry, I didn't always write these. Some of them I wrote them in the negative and some of the positive.
Yeah.
So that is something that over time I've realized that I need to be more frank with clients. I think it's the more loving thing to do. And I think it depends. I think even your personality versus mine. Just when I started out as a trainer, I was just too nice. And so I still stand by everything I said about over coaching. You can just say too many details, but you can be frank and say one or two things. Sometimes I would be too nice and beat around the bush. Oh, try this, try that. I need you to straighten your back a little bit. Sometimes you just need to be a bit more. Or a big thing that I think I have become a lot more frank with people is you should not be using that much weight. That people
holding people back,
in some way, it really depends on the person. Some people it's holding back, some people it's pushing, and even holding back, I would say, is pushing, but it's in the sense that squats are a really great example of this. A lot of people don't squat as low as they have the flexibility for because they don't have the strength for it. So I will intentionally do a lot more of squat type stretches where I can see where people can sit, show me your body weight squat.
Yeah.
And that's the form I want to see when you're under load. So if you were only squatting a couple inches, but I could see over there that you could get all the way down, hips between your knees, below your knees 2 seconds ago. It's not that. I think a lot of people think they don't have the flexibility. That's kind of how they communicate it. It's frankly, I'm sorry, no, you're just not strong enough to squat to depth with this weight.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you can't do something in between. I will work with someone, I will cheer someone on if they hit a new weight and they just grace parallel, and I know they can go deeper on a lighter squat, but they're going to build up the capacity as long as they have in their mindset that they're building up the capacity. But there are sometimes people where, I have group classes, people have huge range of capacity. So I provide the opportunity for something like a barbell back squat, the opportunity you can just do body weight, you can do dumbbells. A lot of people want to do the advanced thing.
Yeah.
And so they'll go under the barbell. They'll be like, it's an empty bar. How much does it weigh? Actually, ma'am, that weighs 45 pounds. It's not. It will be nothing for some people, not for others. And so when people just default to, oh, this is the standard, and then they're squatting this deep, I wouldn't even count it a squat, really, 2 inches. I'm I need you to put that back. Show me your body weight squat. Okay, you can squat that low, or you can squat that low when you have a bench underneath you or a box, something to give you confidence. I want you to do that, either body weight or some weight in between this and 45, and find the weight where it's challenging for you to start. So that is the number one area where I've become more frank with people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's oh, it's okay. They're doing it. It's always it's always figuring out what is people doing the best they can versus they're doing the best they can, but they really don't know any better, and I'm here to help them. So I think the more, 9 times out of 10, the more frank I am with people, they make the correction and they make a lot of improvement.
It's being kind, I would say.
Yeah.
That's a kind thing to do. It's
Yes.
not always the nice thing to do.
Yes.
It might not be received as being nice,
Yeah.
but ultimately you're doing what's trying to help them do something that's going to benefit them in the long run,
Yes.
which is a very kind thing.
Yes. Women in particular, often, I find that more men don't have as much flexibility to go deeper in this. We'll keep using the squat example.
Yeah.
It's more common that I'll see men don't actually have the like hip and groin flexibility. Women, a lot of times, it's like a fear thing. And actually, I know because I've done this before, but I've heard it time and again with clients, they will feel a lot of stress in their back and their knees and feel really unstable on back squats, and they'll hate it and they'll hate back squats, but they also know they should go heavier. So I have multiple women in mind that I can think of that for a while I'd be like, can you go a little bit lower? Can you go a little bit lower? Saying it kind of too nicely. And every time I'm seeing them in a class or in a session, they're trying to put more weight on the bar, more weight. And they're like just barely hitting this parallel, but I know they're more flexible than that. And finally, I'm like, look, I'm sorry, I need you to take the weight off the bar, because then, like, one of the people I'm thinking of, I can't remember if it's knee pain or what, but explicitly talked about always feeling unstable in that position. Yeah. The other one always was talking about back pain. One day I was like, how deep can you squat? I saw that person squat all the way down, like to the ground. I said, okay, well, you're never going to have the strength in that position if you don't train it. Can you do like clean bar? This person was probably could squat like 150, like they weren't new. Started doing that. Now their squats look awesome. I don't exactly think they're back up to the weight they're moving yet, but recently they've said, my back doesn't hurt me anymore. Their back was always hurting them in workouts all the time. It was a constant thing. Tweak this, tweak that. They started using some more muscles a little bit more. The other person that always felt unstable in their knees, I started having her squat to like a low med ball or like a box like this, like low. And she was like, whoa, I feel this way more in my hips. I'm like, yeah, you're using your glutes. You're not just, doing a slight stretch and contraction on the quads. You're getting into that deep squat and using your glutes and your hamstrings. And now it's not all in your knees. And she said, I don't feel unstable anymore in the squats. Like, yeah, it's not supposed to feel unstable, but if it's like, this is the line and you always squat to here, of course you have heavy load on your back. Dropping below that when you don't have the stability, you've never trained the mobility, stability, anything for that, it's going to feel scary because you can't get back up. But it's like training with a rounded spine. If you train to get out of that position with weight over time, you're going to be able to do it. And a lot of research will indicate that, depending on your goals, if you are training for health, I think it's important to have the functionality. Again, squatting to the ground to pick up a kid or moving things, you're not going to have this perfect depth. Having the flexibility, just training muscles through their full range of motion is highly beneficial. And then if you are going from a more bodybuilding aesthetic angle, putting maximum stretch and time under tension on that muscle is going to be really important. So there's really no negatives, and it always has seemed that like they've had less aches and pains when they do it that way. But I think I was too nice to hit their ego a little bit and say, really, you're squatting too heavy. You're actually here. If that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
You got to uphold the standard, but also you're not trying to make people angry.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
So
I try to encourage. Try to make them feel good enough that they keep going.
I don't know. Yeah, there is a fine line there.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, but I think being more, that is just the one that always sticks in my head, but kind of with everything, like being more frank and to the point also gets results faster.
True.
In terms of, too many cues can be confusing. But usually when you're nice, you're giving too many little things instead of just, the big thing is you're using, a lot of times I'll see in weight training classes, the big thing is, unfortunately, I think you're moving weight. You don't have the strength to move yet.
I think the frustrating thing from like a client's perspective then would be like if you weren't frank, if you didn't say it and they didn't know. Like they would have changed.
Yes.
You just made an assumption that they're going to be resistant and you wanted to be nice instead of being kind. And then a year goes by and they're actually quite consistent over that year. And then someone else comes along and says, you know, you're not squatting full depth. They're gonna look at you like, why didn't you tell me this?
Yeah,
Like last year,
exactly.
I see you 3 times a week and you didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And you can't, at that point, you would have to own it. Like, well, I was trying to be nice. So there would be a frustration there. Well, I wasn't coming to you as a coach I wanted you to correct me. I wanted that coaching.
Yeah.
So I think there's sometimes that fear from a coaching perspective that you're going to alienate people, but I think always remembering, no, that's usually what they're paying for. That's why they came to you, is because they want someone to hold them accountable and they want someone to challenge them and guide them to be able to do the things that they can only dream of accessing that they can't do right now.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that as a coach, you're like a friend who's working out with them, not someone who's there in that coaching capacity. And I think it's hard as a coach when you really get to know someone sometimes to be like, nope, like it's not good enough. Like it's just I'm just being honest with you, I love you, but it's not good enough.
Yeah.
You can do better.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Absolutely.
It's really hard.
And it's this dance of, if you're working on someone's really not getting something, still finding that balance of good enough for that day. I think especially in a group context, I can't spend the whole hour on one individual.
True.
And so maybe I'll go, okay, that's good enough. I have a group that's about 40 women this summer. Is 45-minute class, and I realized that's about 1 minute per person after less than a minute really after we do the warm-ups and everything. And so I think what happens is some people need more time than others, but you have to get good at having these like 5-second, like, can you do this? Good. And I will say my college classes are fun in that way, because that has given me confidence that, well, these people are here to learn. It's an educational class. And college boys can be really stubborn, but they also respond well when you're just like, no, no, you're just not doing it right. I'm sorry, no, you have to do it this way. Or, hey, coach, you programmed this exercise, but can I do this instead because I prefer it? No. Yeah. But just being more cut and dry with them and realizing that they respond really well, I think then gave me more confidence to then go to my adult clients that are, majority of them are older than me. Majority of them are colleagues or peers in some sense, because it's a workplace. I'm the trainer at the college for them. So that can add some different awkwardness or insecurity on my part. And so building up the confidence to think, but no, I mean, if they don't want to improve, they don't have to come. And if they're here to improve, and you can say it with a smile, you can say it with a joke, you can also make sure that you're also encouraging them when you see that improvement. Yes, this looks a lot better. But again, I think being more frank can also be more efficient and be helpful for that person. I always think that. I would hate for that. What if that person's in the gym, or say, they're in the gym with a lot of girl students I train, they're in the gym with their boyfriend, and the boyfriend is like more frank with them, the way my husband would be, and say like, you're doing this wrong, fix your form. And just like you said, they get discouraged because why didn't Rachel tell me that? I would hate for that to happen. And so I have to, in a way, they are displaying my capacity as a trainer to the gym every time they go themselves, and to themselves. And so if they really don't feel confident, or they're, but they're also not going to be 100% perfect the first time. And there has to be that degree of, I think it's that just making sure I always, and that comes naturally to me. I want to encourage people making sure I encourage people when I see them do it right as well and see them make an adjustment. So maybe on a form, can you go deeper on your squat? Okay, that's deeper for today. Maybe we'll go even deeper next time, but I'm seeing you respond to the cue. And we'll keep working on this, and it'll be a relationship. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's see. Ooh. I have to do number 6 because, yeah, I like this one. Calorie counting isn't stupid, and eating clean isn't necessarily going to change your life. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think I for a long time bought into this idea that, you know, if you just ate healthy food, you'd be better, you know, and eating clean and eating organic. And it's not, and I don't want to demonize or downplay that, but it's not, it's all marketing, you know, and I just feel like we don't have a lot of control over the calories that we burn. We just don't. And that's not even really debatable. Yeah, you could go run a marathon today and burn more calories than you did yesterday. But if you were to keep running marathons, your body has an energy piggy bank to a certain extent. It's going to pull energy from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So women will lose their menstrual cycle. Men, you'll see testosterone tank. Your body's going to basically, you won't burn, like your muscles won't burn as much if you keep going. It's not a linear thing. And if you look over a long period of time, like a year, your body's going to find a way to even that out. And so people who think that they can lose weight or accomplish those types of aesthetic goals just through exercise, it just doesn't work. And that, I think that leads to a lot of negative things, and a lot of people get frustrated and they quit. So calorie counting isn't stupid. It's not for everyone, but quite literally, if you do the math, you have to, if you want to lose weight, you have to eat fewer calories than you burn, and you can't jack up your caloric expenditure that much. And your metabolism, unless you have an endocrine disorder, doesn't really change that much. When you're very young and you're developing, yes, higher metabolism. When you're very old, yeah, it slows down. But for most of us, we're like, those are like my age group in our 40s, are like, oh, my metabolism's slowing down. Not as much as you think. It's not, I don't think it's that significant. It's your lifestyle has changed a ton.
Do you think it's more, you know, people will talk about like how much muscle mass you have contributing to metabolism?
Yeah, to a certain, but not.
So if people like notice a difference, could you say that maybe it's because, well, their lifestyle changed and they have less muscle mass and they're losing muscle as they age? So I don't know. What would you say to that? Because I've heard.
I think if you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to justify increasing your physical activity as a method, you're just swimming upstream. Just stop. Like you should be exercising, but it's not going to drastically increase your caloric expenditure. You can a little bit, but not significant. The significant factor is how much food you put into the system. So calorie counting is not stupid. And I used to think it was, and I don't anymore. It doesn't work well for everybody, and it's hard to do. And it can have negative consequences if it causes eating disorders. So I'm not an advocate of calorie counting, but I'm not anti-calorie counting. And if you're trying to lose weight and you're not counting calories, we have to find a way to get you in a caloric deficit. That is focusing on high quality food. And by high quality food, I mean favoring less processed food that's higher in protein and higher in fiber, because those are more filling and they tend to be lower in calories. So making a shift. So for people who are like, oh, it's the quality of the food. No, if you overate high quality food, you would still gain weight. It's just harder to overeat high quality food. So again, nuance.
Yeah.
I think calorie intake matters tremendously. And people who are saying, well, it's my hormones, or it's this, or it's that. If that's true, you should see a specialist, an endocrinologist. But it's probably not. It's probably not as big a factor as you think, Because even if you took someone, and we can't do this, but you take someone who's like, oh, I can't lose weight because of my hormones. If we had a time machine and we took you back to World War II and we put you in a concentration camp, I can guarantee you would lose weight because they would starve you. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, so we know that these things work. We know from the show The Biggest Loser. Apparently the NIH has done a ton of research on that. The people who lost the most weight, it was more correlated to nutrition and not to physical activity. So calorie counting isn't stupid, but it's not for everyone. Getting yourself lowering calories is important, and it is the way that you will lose weight. But there's nuance to it. And the best, I think the funniest and probably the best thing that I've heard about it was like, if you went to Jeff Bezos, like you got a conversation with them and you're like, Jeff, how do I become a billionaire? How do I accumulate wealth? And he's like, oh, the secret to accumulating wealth is to get more money. Yes, technically, Jeff, but like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So if you're like, well, the secret to your weight loss is to eat fewer calories than you take in, than you burn. Okay, most people can wrap their, but how? Like, what is so that's like, then that's another thing. I think it's like a healthcare provider or coach. If you stop there, that's lazy. You have to provide multiple avenues. And for some people, tracking their calories is a great way to do it. Other people, it can almost be pathological. It's not a great thing for them, but it's not stupid. And I used to think it was, and I just don't think that anymore. I just see it in a more nuanced perspective.
Yeah.
And so if you're out there, I'm going to eat clean. Again, you're going in the opposite direction with just a different dogma. And what does that mean? Why is that good for you? Because you can go to the store and eat canned and frozen fruits and vegetables and non-organic free-range meat and be quite healthy. You know what I mean? And that's not, and people would look at that, that's not clean eating.
And you can eat organic candy and be really
so it's, and like whey protein is highly processed. It's an ultra processed food. I don't know anyone who's going to make an argument that overconsumption of whey protein is destroying the American healthcare system. No one is ODing on protein powder, but it's an ultra processed food that's readily available.
Yeah.
But it's the processing itself is not necessarily the problem. It can be a problem. Again, nuance. But eating clean and eating organic is not necessarily the solution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but it also creates barriers. So if we hold clean eating as the standard, then people are like, well, I can't afford it. I don't have access to it. I don't like that. And then they're like, well, what's the point? Well, the point is that you can live the life you want, and you can get the health that you want, and you can be the body weight that you want, eating frozen fruits and vegetables and eating canned foods and eating non-organic, non-clean options if it suits your lifestyle and you like it. You know what I mean? And there's like, it fits in and it keeps you in that at least calorie neutral zone, and you're getting all the vitamin and minerals that you need. You're getting enough fiber, you're getting enough protein. We're looking at a relatively well-balanced diet. It can be with things that aren't clean. And it can be with calorie counting or without calorie counting. It just depends on the mechanism that works for you. So I just didn't have a nuanced view of it before. And now when people are like, I want to accomplish my goals by eating clean, a lot of times I'm like, why? Like,
what does that even mean? Tell me what that means.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but what does that mean to you? And is this sustainable? Because I just know too many people are like, I'm going to eat clean and I'm going to accomplish all these goals. 6 weeks later, it became an impossible standard, and they're frustrated and they feel like a loser, feel like a failure. And it's like, you had an unrealistic standard that wasn't going to get you there anyway. So we need to stop demonizing rounding the back when you lift. And we need to stop demonizing, ultra processed foods, but being cautious of some of these things that are really salty, really salty and really sugary and really high in calories and really addicting. And you know what I mean? Like there's just, but we can look at an ultra processed food like whey protein and be like, okay, processing is not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends. It just depends. It depends. And you're going to look at like, well, people shouldn't be drinking soda. Well, yeah, maybe not. I could agree with that. But if they're already drinking soda and we can get them to drink diet soda, they're going to have, like, relatively speaking, they're going to have a big shift in weight and a big shift in health. But from the outside looking in, you're going to see someone drinking 5 diet sodas a day and be like, you're not healthy.
Yeah.
That's not clean. And it's like, well, compared to what they were doing last month, this is exponentially better.
Mm-hmm.
So again, without the context and the nuance, how do you know, like,
Well,
and then you can see someone eating clean and they're like, yeah, that's they eat a clean meal once a week.
Yeah.
And they just have a different body type.
And we can't I think you cannot overestimate the negative, like physical, mental, metabolic effects that obesity has on a body. And if someone is, in the case of like obesity, eating a lot of clean foods, yes, you can, talk about ultra processed addictive foods getting you to that point, or you can talk about them, people talk about them causing this or that metabolic disease or cancer or whatnot, but also being overweight has a lot of negative effects on your body, on your heart, on your lifestyle, on your mental health, on your physical well-being capacity to do things. And just eating organic stuff is not going to get you to lose weight, but eating less is. And so like something I'll see a lot with like the clean diets is a lot of nuts, a lot of peanut butter, and these things that's like, oh, we're not having canola oil, we're having avocado oil, we're having peanut oil, we're having coconut oil, but lots of calories in a lot of oil. And so then sometimes I've worked with those people where they're like, but I'm not losing weight. I'm like, well, because you're eating a lot of calories. You need to cut back on the oils in general. It's not as simple as just replacing one that might not cause cancer, but also eating less of it, I think. It's more.
You'll see that with health foods like almonds. Yes. You can go get really like organic almonds with no salt on them. Yeah. But you buy them in bulk. There's a lot of them. They're really calorie dense, and you're snacking on those. It's like, yeah, you're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals. You're getting fiber, you're getting protein, you're getting a ton of fat. But you're also consuming a day's, sometimes if you're sitting there snacking while you're sitting at a desk working, you might consume a day's worth of calories just in your snack.
Yeah.
And it's not really fulfilling or sustaining you. You have to eat other things. And that would be another example of like, it's technically clean eating and it's organic and but it's not necessarily moving you towards your goal. Yeah. Where other people, they have trouble eating enough calories. That's their problem. So yeah, giving them a big bowl of almonds and just having them snack away could be the best thing for them. That's why it's, again, if we do these 60-second sound bites and we don't have nuance to it, and people take that literally and then they get frustrated, like, well, apparently it works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. I'm a failure. I'm broken. My body must be broken. I must have broken hormones. I must, you know what I mean? It must be all these things. Yeah. And it's like, maybe, but maybe it's not that. You know what I mean? Maybe there's more to it. We just can't, it's not one thing. It's a lot of things.
Paying attention to the labels. I would agree just in terms of, I don't need to repeat what you said, everything you said, but it can be immensely helpful because I try to even encourage students, like, in the very least, start with paying attention to the labels of, some people don't know that nuts are really calorically dense. And if you can, even if you're not ready to track or it's not best for you, in the very least, starting with just knowing what you're putting into your body, whether that is, again, in some cases, it might be, wow, I'm way under eating and under feeding my body. And
that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Or under eating certain macros. I have a sibling who was struggling to lose weight, and they started, of course, I don't know if you have this in your family, everyone comes to you suddenly if they have like health goals or want health wins. And she mentioned that she started tracking and she realized how much of the macro of fat she was consuming. She didn't know how much. She thought she was eating healthy. She was eating a large amount of fat and that she was way under eating carbs. And I've noticed with clients that get confused is that, like, people think of potato chips as carbs. They're actually doused in a lot of oil. Usually, if you look at like one serving, the biggest macro is often fat in something, or proportionally large for what you're thinking. So in her case, she was really under eating carbs, and I don't know to the degree of like balancing hormones things, but she said she felt a lot better and she lost weight when she started tracking and started eating more carbs specifically. She just wasn't eating enough.
You get more full and then you ultimately eat less.
Yeah.
And if you're eating more carbs and they're whole food sources, you're getting more fiber.
Exactly.
And so there's all kinds of benefits to that. So I think changing if you're not like, I can't calorie count, I don't want to calorie count, I don't want to go that road, that's fine. Change your food sources to minimally processed foods if you can, to the greatest extent possible, that are higher in protein and higher in fiber. And you'll statistically, you're going to eat less food. And if you can do both, that would be probably ideal, especially if you're like, my goal is to lose weight and I'm struggling with it. Well, let's overwhelm your problem with an excellent solution. Let's find a way to count calories that's not super painful, at least in spurts. Like, could we do a week and just see where we are ballpark? And then we'll go a month and then we'll recheck. Can we like spot check these kind of things? Yeah. I think it'd be a really powerful tool. I was just very against it. I thought this is a dumb thing. Just eat clean and you'll be fine. Just eat clean.
Healthy. Or just it
just doesn't work that way.
Or just work out. Yeah, I used to be like, oh, I work out so I can eat whatever. And that's great, but I did see a difference when I paid attention. And you don't have to do it forever. No. I'm checking it out.
I think we're at our time limit.
Yes, unfortunately.
So what I'll do is send me a digital copy of the rest of your list. And then I'll post most of our lists in the show notes of the podcast. So if anyone's listening and they're like, well, I want to know everything else.
I know there's so much good stuff here.
And then people can ask, if they see us, they could ask us about it. Or we could, if they want, we could do another episode where we get to the other stuff.
Yeah, I would totally do another episode to get to the other stuff. I'm really interested in number 2. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Well,
thank you for having me.
I don't remember, you were on one of the earlier episodes. This should be number 85 or 86, 87. We're in the high 80s right now, so we're getting close to triple digits. So yeah, it's a cool repeat guest.
I'm so curious about this number 2.